Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. Hey everyone, today you're about to hear my interview on the Standout business show. So it is actually me getting interviewed, and I just wanted to clear that up in case you're confused when you're listening and you're like, where is this from? So check out that show and check out this interview, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
And we are live. Welcome to the Standout business show, where it's all about making a bigger difference by doing business differently. I'm Brad Powell, and today I'm asking this question: are you ready to confidently rock your standout offer, your standout brand messaging, your pricing, and your online presence? And would you like to get more done in less time? And of course, start booking your dream clients on a consistent basis, day after day, week after week, all with a simplified marketing system? Well, if any of that sounds good, stay tuned for today's live interview with marketing and sales coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider, Hailey Rowe. She's going to be sharing the top 3 traits that will help you prevent overwhelm and procrastination in your business, grow your sales and marketing to make a bigger impact, and solve your biggest business headaches like a pro. So, listen up if you're ready for more online visibility and getting clients without constantly needing to post on social media. Sound good? And with that, let's start the show. All right. Hailey, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me, Brad.
Yeah, and to start off with our conversation, I see a lot of coaches and consultants struggling in a variety of ways. Mm-hmm. In your mind and your experience, what are the things that you believe are kind of standing in the way for them to really stand out in a unique way and really, be seen by the people who they want to be seen the most as this, like, the best person, the go-to person in their field?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of components. One is picking the right offer and making your offer juicier. I think a lot of times people just think, oh, well, I'm just going to sell coaching, or I'm just going to sell this course or whatever. And they're focused on what it is as opposed to the so what of what it is and how their approach is faster or more convenient or saves their audience from having to do certain things that they really don't want to do, and highlighting those things. So I think the offer itself may need some updates and some upgrades to really stand out. But I also think, and this may come first, it's also about who you are as a service provider. And I think a lot of times the people who succeed in business are the kind of people who are like, just believe I'm just going to figure this out. And they're very solution oriented, and they have this willingness to try things, test things, put things out there without seeing immediate reward and keep going. And so I also think to stand out these days, you have to have some traits actually of who you're being in addition to the actual offer. And then I think the last component, of course, is just your whole business, process. So how you're generating leads, how you're nurturing those leads, how you're making the offer. Are you keeping the clients once they come into your offer and into your world? So that's all like strategic stuff, which actually, in my opinion, is easier than building the traits, because the strategies you can address, and it's math, right? And you can increase your inputs to increase your outputs. But the traits are things that I see people holding them back and not even realizing it by just saying, oh, I'm not tech savvy, so I can't do that. Or, oh, I tried this for 2 weeks and it didn't work, so I'm going to bounce around to something else. Or, oh, I just didn't have time. And all those little like limitations we put on ourselves, those I think limit people from standing out.
Yeah, I really think when it comes to showing yourself, like the person who you are as part of what your business is all about is super important. I mean, when it comes to being differentiated, I think the real answer to the question of like, well, how do I do that? Well, a big part of the answer is it's you. Like the more you are you and the more you lean into the person who you are, the more distinctive you're going to be. And the challenge is, of course, starting to recognize, well, who the heck am I really? Like,
Yeah.
what are the parts of me that are my best assets that I can just both celebrate and showcase at the same time and lean into that. So when you're talking with people and helping them, sort of encouraging them to literally be more visible with themselves, with their own personality and the kind of person who they are, what are the kinds of things that you suggest to them?
Yeah. Well, a couple things. One is I think you have to have a framework or a system or something like that that you can talk about related to your offering. So I know that's not about putting your own self out there, but it is about, it's different than just saying, oh, I sell XYZ commodity. So that's one thing, is really fleshing out what is your unique framework or system or way that you help people get from point A to point B. But the other thing with standing out is I think a lot of people are afraid to share those personal side, the personal side of them, or their own stories, because I feel like, well, what if people don't like me, or what if it isn't received well? And I think the key here is remember that you are a business owner and your product and service is a separate entity from you. It's something you've created. It's something that you are the top marketing director for, you're the top affiliate for, you're the representative of it. And sometimes I think we kind of really like embed ourselves and take things personally and think, oh my gosh, like this is me and this is my heart. And so if people don't like it, there's a lot at stake there. Versus if you see it as, this is my business, this is what I've created, this is something for a certain market, and kind of separate yourself a little bit from it, I think you'd feel more confident sharing your story, sharing things, because you're not going to take it as personally. It's like, oh, they're just not a fit for the product and the thing that I do. And that's okay. And not everybody's going to be. So I know it's hard when you're a heart-centered business owner and you love what you do and you're passionate about what you do. But I think there's a fine line between letting that actually derail you in your business because you're afraid of being visible, because you put so much heart into it, compared to if you were able to kind of see things as data and still be passionate about sharing and putting yourself out there, but remembering that this is, it doesn't mean anything about your own worth if somebody doesn't like it or want to do it.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. And it reminds me of this anecdote that I often share, which is really about not responding the first time someone says no to you or the first time someone just completely ignores you. Like they didn't even say no. They just didn't even take any notice. And this came from a trip I was on a little while ago where I was going to one of these 3-day events, a conference. And I was in the mode of feeling like really gregarious and like, oh, I'm going to a conference. I'm going to meet new people and this is going to be great. And I got on the plane and sat down, and next to me on the window side was a young woman who was sitting there with her, earbuds on and her iPad out, and the whole flight, she totally ignored me.
Yeah.
And that's just sort of normal behavior these days. And it's like, okay, well, she didn't want to talk to me, and I didn't feel terrible about that or anything. But the funny, weird thing that happened was after the conference, when I was probably even more in a gregarious mood after meeting people and talking and stuff, like, oh, I wonder if anybody will be on the plane who I know, we can join and fly back together. Well, I got on the plane, sat down, and next to me was the same person.
Oh, funny. Oh my gosh.
And so I came to sat down, and this time I was thinking, oh no, like, well, forget this idea of having a good conversation. But when I got there and she looked up this time and our eyes met and we both started laughing at like the coincidence of being on the same seats together for two different flights. And we started talking, so the ice was broken and I learned all these things. Like, she was a student here in Boston and she was studying accounting and she'd been visiting her sister. And like, I got all these I learned like sort of who she was. And to me, the lesson there is that the difference like between incident number one and incident number two was simply that by her seeing me the first time and then again the second time, I'd become something familiar, like even the smallest way. And in the context of the plane ride, I was the only familiar face in a plane full of strangers. So I was the only person that she was even willing to look at and talk to, because all of a sudden we had this really small previous incident. And to me, it's like, this is how simple it can be. Like, even though you put stuff out there and it feels like, oh no one's paying any attention and no one's listening and no one liked my last post or any of that stuff, but you'd be surprised at who saw it and what will happen the next time.
Right. And I think too, something to note from that, just in marketing in general, is people need touch points these days to build trust. So in other words, if you are just putting out your offer and you're doing sales posts, you're not going to get very far these days, because people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And they've done actually studies on this where they've tested like how many little touch points. And by touch points, I mean like they need to see your brand name. They need to see your logo. They need to see a post from you. They need to see that you liked their post. They need, like, those are little touch points that build relationships. And they found that nowadays, it used to be like you could do 7 to 17 of those and be okay. Nowadays, they've found it's like 30 to 40. And then I've seen even the range in stats of like 7 to 77 times. Now, that doesn't mean everybody needs that. Some people are fast movers and are fine with, just finding a solve to their problem and getting on it. But I think that we have to remember that it kind of has to be, your trust has to be earned these days. And your job is to build connection and build like relationships with your audience. And I think that's sometimes people just think, well, I'm just going to put it out there and people are going to love it. But that's not how it works these days. You got to be a little more engaged with your people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely the path, that the trend line we're headed on is like, we're going to need to be showing up for people and giving more value consistently over fairly healthy lengths of time to really earn trust, because especially in the realm of artificial intelligence, I mean, the myriad of messaging that's going to be produced from these language models is just only going to increase. And so this is an opportunity where if you are distinctive and you can show up as a human being and be more personal and personable, this is a great opening for us. So let's go back and talk about juicing up your offer.
Yeah.
Because people are going, oh yeah, I'd like to have a juicy offer. So how do I do that?
I love the word juicy. I always say that, and I guess most people don't say that. But anyways, so your offer needs to be connected to some kind of pain point or dream outcome that your ideal clients would pay to solve. And a lot of times what happens is we think something sounds nice and we think somebody would buy something, but then when we actually ask our market, they're like, no, I don't really see a need for that. So for example, I have a membership and I kept marketing it as, you're going to get these trainings and you're going to learn how to do this, this, and this. And what a big part of my membership is that I wasn't highlighting, that was actually what people were needing, is it helps you actually if you have a lot of information right now and you're kind of an information overload, it helps you actually focus on less. And it helps you build like a weekly business protocol so you can stay focused and not have so much information anymore and just be taking action. And what I realized is a lot of people were saying to my membership before, when I was saying all the things that are in it, they're like, oh, I have so much on my plate. I don't know if I can make the time to really dig into this. It sounds great, but I don't know if I have the time to really dig into this. Versus when I started highlighting, but a huge part of it is creating your business plan, your weekly protocol, where with all these little things you're looking at and learning from and trying to organize, we're going to help you take that and implement and do things. So that actually shifted the response, because people are like, that's exactly what I need right now. I'm feeling so I'm drowning in so much stuff. So if you could help me like kind of narrow that in, that would be awesome. So that's the thing you got to do, is like listen to your audience of what do they find valuable, what would they pay to solve, and make sure you're highlighting that. The other thing you can do is position your offer in a way that creates a reason for why now. So sometimes that'll just be because your audience's problem is so big that they need to solve it right now. Like it's like they're thirsty in a desert. That's what you want to be thinking of. But other times you may need some incentive for why should they join right now. Maybe it's a special price right now. Maybe you have bonuses when you join within a certain time frame. Maybe they get extra exclusive one-on-one time with you if they decide within a certain time frame. So you want to reward decision making so that they're not left scrambling with so many options and just in the same position they were before they met you. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is you want to highlight not just the dream outcome and how you get them to what's the end result, but you want to highlight how do you make it less inconvenient, remove some of the pains along the way for them, and make sure you're highlighting that, and less focus on just the what of like, oh, well, you get email access to me, or you get, these assets by the time we're done. Also focus on, well, okay, but what are you also removing for them? What is the so what of what the assets that they do get? So I think a lot of that people miss, or they forget about that part. So I think that's pretty important as well.
Yeah, that last part, I mean, the removal of pain is worth a lot. Mm-hmm. And sort of all these things around, people have desirable outcomes, like they all want to look good, and they all want to be beautiful, and they all want to make money, and they all want to live a happy life. And those are all aspirational things. But within all of that, people have these headaches, they have this nail in the back of their head, and they're going, I have a nail over here and it really hurts. How can I get rid of this nail?
Well, and you bring up a good point. So you're talking about, like, people will buy things that are related to health, wealth, more money, better relationships, but they will buy what's urgent for them right now. So if you're saying, I'm going to help you find your life purpose, that's great. But not everybody is like, that is my urgent, this week, I need to determine my purpose. What they might be saying right now is like, I need to get out of this job. I hate my job and I need to find a new one. And I need to know like what my purpose is, or what I really want to do, or what direction I want to go. Maybe that's a part of it, but maybe the real thing they want right now is to get out of that job. Or if you're marketing, become a better manager or something. Okay, but why do they want that right this second? Do they want to make more money right now? Do they want to have the status of that? Like, why do they really want that? So you got to think about the pain point right now. And I had a client actually too, who was in wellness, and she was saying something really nice to have in her elevator pitch, but it wasn't like the urgent thing. And what the urgent thing was her people were really seeking relief from brain fog, headaches, migraines, like things like that. And so we had to kind of shift her messaging to focus on that rather than the more long-term things. You have to kind of market what people want and then give them what they need, as they say, right? Because they may need, and they may not realize, in order to solve their headaches, they need to change their diet. They need to maybe, have less stress and do more holistic things. Maybe look at some of their products they're using, whatever. But what they're going to respond to is not you saying that. It's you saying, we're going to help you get relief with your headaches.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We're going to have instant pain relief.
There you go.
All those aspirin commercials. You could take a lesson from them.
Yeah, but minus, hopefully you don't have all the side effects that their drugs have.
Yeah, right.
All these other
It's
things.
not quite that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, all right. So let's move into the third section where we're talking about strategy. So, I'm coming up with a juicy offer and I'm starting to listen to my audience and understand them in a way that works. So now I need to look at systems by which I can not only attract people into my world, but then start to manage them in a way that is systematic. So, what are the sort of key things that you have people start putting in place around their systems?
Definitely. Well, I think the first thing is to ask yourself, before you go into anything new, ask yourself what has worked in the past or what has indicated it could work in the past. And do I have any really low-hanging fruit of like, if I had to go get my next client tomorrow, where would I start? What would I do? And start there, because so often I think we add new things when really there's things right in front of our face that are very doable that we could be doing right now. And sometimes we avoid that because we want to, feel the novelty or avoid the actual work that's really going to move us forward sometimes. But that's the first step. And then the next thing is to ask yourself, okay, based on where my ideal client hangs out, who are they in front of? What conferences do they go to? Who do they follow on social media? What Facebook groups might they be in? What job titles might they have so I could find them on LinkedIn? Things like that. You want to flesh out what I call a leads finder list. And this is something I do with my clients. And then we will decide what's going to be your lead gen system to get in front of them, right? And the process we use is something called the 4 basics of client attraction, which is we have to connect with them. So we have to be visible, get in front of them somehow. We have to engage with them. So that's where you would ask an intentional question or, grab their attention in your post or be in front of the audience doing a guest training or whatever, and you're engaging with them. When you engage with them, you learn what they want, what they need, what they're struggling with, et cetera. So then you can make what we call a pre-offer. So that's where you offer usually something free of value or very low investment to help them have a quick win and solve a little mini problem or a little piece of the whole puzzle that your bigger program might have. And then the last stage would be, okay, if they liked that, do they want to go deeper? Do they want to have a discovery call with you? Or do they want to, watch your whole webinar where you offer your course or whatever it is that you offer? So those 4 basics can be applied to any marketing channel. So it's connect, engage, pre-offer, and sell. And what you have to do is decide where you're going to be doing that. This year for me, I have been doing that a lot at summits, a lot with guest collaborations and guest trainings where I can get in front of many people at once who are in my ideal audience. And I've been offering my email freebie. And so my email list has been growing every month very consistently because I've done so many like summits, collabs, email, freebie swaps where we share each other's freebie on each other's content, stuff like that. So that's one of my favorites this year. But before that, it was a lot of word of mouth. It was a lot of having a referral program, which I still have. It was, it's been different things. And as I go, I keep putting systems in place to keep adding more things. But what I recommend for most is start with one and master it and really get it flowing and then keep expanding from there.
Yeah, I think the collaboration approach is a really healthy one because first of all, you can't do too much of it. And it's only going to lead to good things. Like the more like people, there's the thing about the true fans, like get 1,000 true fans and then you're sort of set in terms of at least a baseline of support. Well, to me, I think the true fan actually wants to be in the realm of your peers and colleagues. Like those are the people who you want to be targeting as your true fans first, because if you get a pretty small number of people who are in your circle of influence and you're doing things with them, like you're collaborating like we're doing today, or you're doing a training on as a webinar to their audience, or any kind of thing like that, or you're hosting a summit and you bring all these people together for your own event. All of these kinds of things are helping you elevate your platform, like your platform of authority for the thing that you do. And more people will see you and recognize you, including your peers, so that when they're going to do something and they need somebody to participate who's like you're going to be top of mind for them. And that just works quite naturally and easily. And it's a really great, healthy place to begin. And of course, all the effort that and focus that people have on content marketing and, well, I have to get on social media and I have to post all, that's good. Like, it's definitely a good idea. But to me, it's almost like, well, this is like social proof,
Yes, exactly.
My presence on LinkedIn, where I am pretty social and pretty present on a daily basis, is proof that I exist.
Yeah, exactly.
I am the person who I say I am. And if you come to my LinkedIn profile and you start looking at my content, you're going to see a lot of the value that I have to share. That's there, all that social proof. But it's probably not where the largest share of people are going to discover me, because of all the relationship marketing that I do in terms of these kinds of collaborations.
Right.
So how do you see that balance between content marketing and relationship marketing?
Yes. So I'm actually glad you brought this up, because I think content, as you said, it's like a supporter. It's not the driver, in my opinion, unless you're doing like paid ads. It's not going to drive you. Like, you're not going to look at one post and be like, wow, I got 3 clients just from this one post. Maybe sometimes I've had some clients like do, a launch and incorporate content into that and have some success with that. But it's not the main thing. It's a supporter thing. It's like the touch points we talked about. That's what builds the touch points. But what really drives it home is if you are doing like a webinar with somebody's audience, or you're interacting with people one-on-one, or, stuff like that. So I think it's really important to use content to address your ideal client's hesitations they might have before getting to know you, objections they might have to your offer, maybe tell some stories that can build show social proof and things like that. So use it to your advantage to do some marketing for you without you actively having to be there. But at the same time, don't expect that to be the strategy. It can't be the only strategy, because you have to think about the eyeballs on your stuff. You're factoring in algorithms favoring you and putting you in front of people, which probably won't happen very well these days. It's really annoying how hard it is to be seen on social media unless you're paying for ads. So it's really not going to do the job. So I think it's important to not spend your time posting all the time. I think that can kind of be a shield for people for avoiding like bigger things, like pitching themselves to a big guest opportunity, or doing a talk at a summit, or going out in person and leading a workshop, or partnering with somebody on something bigger. So don't let yourself fall into that trap where you're spending all these hours on content and then being like, well, I don't have time for anything else.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's really good strategies on combining those two things, where when you're going out and speaking, you're creating content and you can take that and reuse it as your social posting. So that works really well.
Yeah.
So this is probably a really good note for us to close on, because we're right at the end of our time together today. So if people are inspired and they're going, well, I want to juice up my offer, and they want to hook up with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can connect with me at HaileyRowe.com. There's a spot there to book a free consult, but I also have other options where we do work on your jumpstart offer, is what I call it. So that's kind of the juicy offer. I have a free community called the Marketing Hub. It's on Facebook. I have a podcast called Health Coach Nation for coaches who want to grow their business. And then I'm on LinkedIn, because I do LinkedIn lead gen services for a lot of B2B business owners. So any of those places. And then I'm on Instagram at Hailey_Rowe. And if you guys liked the 4 basics of client attraction and you want to dive deeper and see some examples with that, I have a free training, HaileyRowe.com/client-attraction. And you can learn a little bit more about what does that really take and what does that look like. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll make sure that links to all your stuff are in the show notes. And Hailey, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and for those who are listening here at the end, I just want to remind you that if you'd like to go and get the entire archive of the Standout Business Show, just go to standoutbusiness.show, and it's all there, all the audio, all the video, all the show notes, all the extra little things that are included, and you can binge to your heart's content. We go live every now Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and until the next time, so long.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.